Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and sorry about the rain outside, but I film whether it's raining or not. Hopefully it doesn't come through the microphone too loud. And this is part 3 of a series. What I'm going to discuss in this is one of the most common questions I got in part 2 a couple days ago. I'm going to link it down below in the description box and annotate it here. If you didn't see part 2, probably you might want to go watch that. If you didn't see part 2, you might want to go watch that because you're not going to understand what I'm talking about here. But with the progression that I discuss in there, a simple old school progression before we had all this periodization that came out of Russia and everything else over here in the West, I discussed a basic progression pattern where you start with roughly a 5 rep max or a weight that's pretty difficult with 5 reps, and you progress from there on all your main exercises. You try to get 5 reps and you try to get 6 reps with good form, then 7. A lot of people ask, well, wait, how many sets? How would you set up sets on something like that? Is it 1 set, multiple sets? Honestly, it depends on what you want to do. It's totally doable off of a single peak set. Some of the best programs throughout history have had 1 peak set, which means you could ramp up and use a little less than that for ramping sets to warm up, or just warm up a little bit and build to that 1 set and try to get to that 1 set. And a lot of people say, well, hey, that might not be enough volume. It's totally enough volume if you're doing multiple exercises and you're on a high frequency. You have to remember, old school lifters back in the day trained everything 3 times a week. If they came in and did squats and deadlifts or whatever, bench press, they did all of them 3 times a week. They did full body programs generally. Split routines are from the modern era when drug use started becoming more and more prevalent and doses went up. That's how the older guys trained. And so if you think about it, for example, let's say you did flat bench, incline bench, and flies for your chest. Well, that's 3 different exercises. 1 set of each done 3 times a week ends up being 9 sets. You shouldn't even need 9 sets to grow off of if you're a drug-free lifter to hit maximum growth, or even a moderately enhanced lifter, just because that should be enough workload, particularly when those sets are taken to the extreme like that. You're working with near maximum poundages for the reps you're doing. You're getting close to failure, hitting muscle failure on those. You shouldn't need more than about 5 to 9 sets on a body part per week in order to stimulate maximum growth. It's just not necessary, at least for the drug-free lifter, and particularly if you're working pretty hard while you're doing it. So that's what it comes down to. You can get away with 1 set. Now, for people who aren't doing maybe as many exercises, multiple sets become the norm. And so let's say you wanted to do this with 3 sets. Obviously, you can't hit failure or get right on the bleeding edge of failure on any exercise 3 times in a row and do the same reps. Because, for example, if you fail on rep 6 on a barbell squat, you hit failure at the 6th rep, you're not going to come behind it and do 5 with the same weight, particularly for 2 more sets. That's the thing that people who say, well, I can do that. You're not hitting failure. You're giving up short of muscle failure if that's what you're doing. You're not actually hitting your 5 rep or 6 rep max, because if you do, you will not physically be able to come and replicate that again in a couple minutes. So hopefully that makes sense to people what I'm saying. You will not be strong enough to do it because you hit your max reps for that weight. If you wanted to run this same system, you would pick a weight that you reach muscle failure on around the 5th rep, or the 5th rep is really, really difficult on the 3rd set if you wanted to do 3 sets. So you would come in and do 3 sets of 5 and then build to where you can do 3 sets of 6. Because as you get stronger, remember those first 2 sets are not pushed to the limit as much. They're more of just adding more volume and more workload to stimulate more hypertrophy and growth. So if you're going to do that approach, the 3rd set would be the really hard one. So let's say you could probably do 6 or 7 reps with 100 pounds on an exercise. So you come in and you do 3 sets of 5 with it. And that 5th rep on the final set should be pretty difficult. And then when it gets to where it's no longer that difficult anymore, you add another rep. So you try to get 3 sets of 6. When that 3rd set, the 6th rep, becomes less difficult to where you don't feel like you're really grinding it out or hitting muscle failure, you add another rep and try to do 3 sets of 7 until you get to 10, and then you drop it back down to 5. You increase the weight about 10%, 12%, somewhere in that range. Drop back down to 5 reps and repeat the process. So you can do it with a single set system off of 1 rep, or you could come and do it off of a multi-set system off of 3 reps. Just realize that if you do the multi-set system, you're going to use a little less weight for the same number of reps, because you're not going to be able to get to that bleeding edge on 3 sets in a row with the same weight. You're going to lose reps and start reaching failure really quickly. Because if you fail on the 6th rep on the 1st set with the same weight, by the time you get to the 3rd set, you will be lucky to get 3 or 4 reps. And that's what we're looking for here with a training system like this. These guys weren't looking to have a spotter help lift the weight off of them and counting that as a rep, or the spotter touching it. They were talking about being able to complete it with good form, with clean form. And that's what you're looking for, is when you can complete all of your reps with good form it's time to go ahead and try to do more reps. Because you're strong enough to do so, you've made gains, you've grown, so you can stimulate new growth, new adaptation. So hopefully that clarified that for the people who were asking if they should be doing one set or multiple sets. So I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.